Well, what's going on, guys? Thanks so much for stopping by today. We are out in the shop and we are going to do Diesel YJ recap number 3. It starts right now. Stick around. Alright, what a pain that was. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out. So as you can see, our YJ is really moving along. We're almost to the point where we can get it up on wheels and tires. I don't have those picked out yet, but I got some stuff laying around the shop here that'll probably do just fine. We've got a lot accomplished since our last recap. We got our leaf springs installed, axles back under, we got some U-bolt skid plates made, we got our belly pan modded, we got, just a lot done. We still got a lot more to do, so make sure you stick around for all that. But right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the videos of everything that it took for us to get to this point right here, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Part of the job is relatively straightforward. You just want to use something to hold the back side of the centering pin. I've chosen a pair of channel locks, and you want to pull the nut off the front. Now before we tighten this up and run it home, we want to make sure that everything is lined up right, make sure our leaves are stacked correctly. We want to make sure that none of our friction pads here have come out or anything like that. So ours is good to go. We're just going to go ahead and tighten it up real quick. Now I also opted for greasable bolts with my kit, and I have pre-greased all of the bolts and all the bushings. Also, I have new bushings in the frame, which helps out tremendously, I'm sure. Now I did go ahead and grease the pins before I slid them in the bushings as well, just to make sure everything was lubricated properly and there were going to be no potential binds when we put the suspension through its first cycles. Now our leaf spring specs are 95 foot-pounds for the spring to shackle bolt nuts and 105 for the spring to frame bracket. So it's 105 here and it's going to be 95 back there. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we tighten these down real quick to spec, and then we will move on to the next portion of this. Once again, these leaf springs are from Rusty's Off-Road. They are the 4-inch leaf springs with a military wrap. We also installed standard Rusty's Off-Road lip shackles, and we installed Rugged Ridge mainspring eye bolt. What we're going to do today, instead of putting a bigger bolt or a bigger washer on there, is we're going to reinforce this skid plate, and we're going to do it with this. Now guys, this is just a regular washer. There's nothing special about it, but what we're going to do is we're going to place them over top of these bolt holes and weld them in. Alright guys, I just wanted to do a quick comparison shot for you real quick. Now I've got this side already welded up, and I've already started to dress the welds a little bit. Be really careful not to overdress your welds, because if you start getting down into the base material, you've gone too far and you're going to weaken it. But if you look, you can see the bolt now and how it slides through the hole. You can see how tight it is in the hole. Now when we come over to the other side, you can kind of see what's going on here. You see that bolt and how much it just sits down in that hole? And you can also see the hardware that they've given us is kind of like countersink hardware. It does have like a countersink edge on it to make sure that it gets down in there. So we're going to go ahead and weld these other 3 on and get them cleaned up. Alright guys, so that's pretty much going to do it for the welding. We've got everything tacked in. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean up the welds on this side right here, like I did on this side, get everything cleaned up, and then we're going to come back and install our transfer case drop bracket kit. Guys, just to show you real quick what exactly is involved in this transfer case drop kit, you have the 1-inch pucks and then you have the hardware. It's pretty self-explanatory. Another reason to install this, or the main reason to install this, is to get that transfer case down a little bit because we've dropped the suspension down so much. Now, we've already put wedges on to raise the pinion angle, but bringing the actual transfer case down an inch also helps out with that. So with the combination of these two things, we should be pretty sure that we're not going to see much driveline vibration. Now, another thing that you're going to want to do, guys, is with these bolts right here, put a little bit of anti-seize on them. And a little bit of anti-seize goes a long way with these things. If you start getting them stuck in your frame, a lot of times you have to cut out the entire nutsert and pull it out of the frame and put in a new one. I had to put in a couple nutserts in this frame. Unfortunately didn't film them. But that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of anti-seize on the bolts and get them started up in there. And another thing that you're going to want to make sure you do, guys, is tap out the holes. We used internal frame coating, and we also used some Pour 15, both of which ended up getting in the threads. So make sure you clean out the threads and use a little bit of anti-seize, and everything should go okay. After applying your anti-seize, loosely install all 6 bolts into the frame. Make sure that you can move that transfer case skid plate around a little bit and adjust as necessary to get it to bolt up straight. Now, if you're final installing this, the torque spec for these bolts is 55 foot-pounds. This is a skid plate that I built here at home. If you choose, you can buy these on the aftermarket for about $250 for the entire set, or you can stick around and I'll show you how to build them for about $30. Problems with the spring under system that I'm running is it leaves the bottom of your U-bolts vulnerable to damage. If you damage one of these bolt threads and you go to take the nut off, you can strip the nut out, you can strip the bolt out, and soon, you know, your bolt's just junk. So we need to protect that. A really cheap, easy way to protect that, guys, is to take these old U-bolt plates that we were going to throw out anyway, enlarge the holes here, clean them up, and just weld them on the bottom side like this. Now what that's going to do is give us pretty much a U-bolt skid plate. That's going to be a real good way to make sure we don't incur any damage to our U-bolt. This is a really cheap mod. It's just going to cost us a little bit of time in the sandblaster here to clean everything up, a little bit of welding wire, and, you know, a couple holes to be widened. But the great thing about this, guys, is we're recycling. We're using junk that we would have thrown away. So hey, it's definitely worth it. Now the cool thing about using these plates right here on the front is, if you notice, the axle itself has different spacing for these two bolts, or for these two U-bolts rather. So by utilizing this plate, cutting this off and putting it over top of another one, we can also have a plate for the front that has the correct bolt spacing in it already. All we got to do is, once again, enlarge those holes so we can get a socket down on the nut and the nut can fall out. So it's not a big deal. But we're going to go ahead and start this process. The first thing we got to do, though, guys, is finish cleaning these up and get them modified. We got to get this cut off, and we got to get these things cleaned up and ready to weld. So stick around for that. Alright guys, so you watched us sandblast and get most of the surface scale off these things and get them back down to a usable surface. Now the next thing that we're going to do is go ahead and go through, and on the front two we're going to cut these studs off right here at the edge of the plate. off of my U-bolt plates. I've got the edges ground, ready for them to be welded. As you can see here, it leaves a nice open gap for you to put a weld in, so that's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and get to this, guys, and we'll see how it all turns out. This is what our U-bolt plate looks like, all dressed up and cleaned up. Once again, we're going to go ahead and open these holes up on the bottom. That way we can get a socket through there. And we're going to open up the one here for the center pin as well. But that's it, guys. This should protect the bottom of our U-bolts really well. And this is a really simple, got used parts you're going to throw away kind of hack. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for today. We're going to go ahead and finish bolting up our U-bolt plates now. Got them nice and good. Then we're going to have to go ahead and shave off the bottom of the bolts here so they're flush. So guys, that brings us up to where we are right now with our Project YJ. It's getting really close to being able to throw it on wheels and tires and get it rolling around here in the shop. We do have a bunch more work to go, but nothing that's going to be too crazy. In the next series of videos, we're going to be removing the rear axle again. We got to do some work there. Stick around and you'll see why. Front axle is good to go. It's going to stay in. We got a bunch of stuff to do up there. Steering box, track bar, steering linkage, outers, axle shafts, posi lock, just the list goes on and on for the front end. So we've got a bunch of stuff to do with that. Now, this whole Jeep, I'm expecting within the next month for it to be up on wheels, start doing the fuel system, getting the transmission transfer case pulled, starting to work on our engine. There's just a lot of stuff going on, guys. So make sure you hang around and keep stopping by. If you got any comments, please share them below. Like, subscribe, share this with your friends. I really appreciate you stopping by. And remember, guys, no matter what you choose to do today, just be thankful that you can. We'll see you next time.